coverage.
We'll leave the last few minutes of Speaker Pelosi's comments from yesterday and take you live to the Democratic National Committee winter meeting for comments from President Obama. Just getting underway, live here on C-SPAN.
Hello, Democrats. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, DNC. Everybody have a seat. Have a seat. Thank you. Ah, it is good to see you. Good to be among friends. So committed to the future of this party and this country that they're willing to brave a blizzard. Snowmageddon here in D.C. I noticed somebody had Californians for Obama, and I was thinking, you guys are not used to this. I've got some special thanks to the folks here. First of all, I want to thank Eleanor Holmes Norton for fighting the good fight here in the District of Columbia. Ray Buckley, our DNC Vice Chair from New Hampshire. Alice Germond, DNC Secretary. Andy Tobias, DNC Treasurer. Thanks for the great work that you guys do. I want to thank Tim Kaine, who's not only an outstanding former governor, but an outstanding leader of this party, busy building the best online and in-field grassroots organization we've ever had. Give Tim Kaine a big round of applause. And if I'm not mistaken, we've got a couple of terrific members of Congress here. Mike Honda, Congressman and DNC Vice Chair. Is Mike, are you here? He's on his way. He's still shoveling. And how about Barbara Lee? Is Barbara here? Well, we love her anyway. So give Barbara and Mike a big round of applause. I want to thank the governors, the legislators, the mayors from across this country for working to move their states and local communities forward in extraordinarily challenging times. They've done heroic work. I want to thank the DNC members, state party leaders, and most of all, I want to thank the millions of Americans who've taken up the cause of change at the grassroots level in all 50 states. Now, Tim alluded to this, but I just want to remind everybody, we knew from the beginning that this would not be easy. Change never is. But that's especially true in these times, when we face an array of challenges as tough as any we have seen in generations. President Kennedy once said, when we got into office, the thing that surprised me most was to find that things were just as bad as we'd been saying they were. Well, the truth was, things were worse. We took office facing a financial crisis that was something we hadn't seen since the Great Depression. An economy that we now know was bleeding 750,000 jobs a month, a $1.3 trillion deficit, and two wars that were costly in every sense of the word. From the specter of terrorism to the impacts of globalization, we face tremendous new challenges in this young century. And all of this comes on top of one of the toughest decades our middle class had ever faced. A decade where jobs grew more slowly than during any prior expansion, where the income of the average American household actually declined, where the costs of everything seemed to keep going up. Everything we've done over the past year has been not only to right our economy, to break the back of this recession, but also to restore some of the security the middle-class families have felt slipping away for over a decade now. Some of the steps we took were done without the help of the other party, which made a political decision all too often to jump in the back seat, let us do the driving, and then critique whether we were taking the right turns. That's okay. That's part of what it means to govern. And all the steps we took were necessary. None of us wanted to throw a lifeline to the banks, but the outrage shouldn't be that we did, because it had to happen in order to prevent millions more from losing their jobs, millions of businesses and homes foreclosed. The real outrage is that we had to do it in the first place in order to fend off the collapse of the financial system. That's the outrage. Then we passed almost $300 billion in tax relief, tax cuts for small businesses, tax cuts for 95% of working Americans. We put Americans to work building the infrastructure of tomorrow, doing the work America needs done. We passed a credit card bill of rights to protect consumers from getting ripped off by credit card companies. We put the law behind the principle of equal pay for equal work. We extended the promise of health care to 4 million more children of working families. We protected every child from being targeted by tobacco companies. We passed a service bill named for Ted Kennedy that gives young folks and old folks new ways to give back to their communities. We appointed Sonia Sotomayor to the Supreme Court. And we've begun working with Congress and our military to finally repeal the law that denies gay Americans the right to serve the country that they love because of who they are. Overseas, we've begun a new era of engagement. We're working with our partners to stop the spread of nuclear weapons and to seek a world free of nuclear weapons. We ban torture. We have begun to leave Iraq to its own people. We've charted a new way forward in Afghanistan and Pakistan and made good progress in taking the fight to al-Qaeda across the globe. I went to Cairo on behalf of America to begin a new dialogue with the Muslim world. And we are living up to a moment that demands American leadership by standing side by side with the people of Haiti. So if you look at a tally of the things we said we would do, even in the midst of this extraordinarily challenging economy, we've kept our promises. We've kept our commitments. We have moved forward on behalf of a more prosperous and more secure future for the American people. But for all our efforts, we have to acknowledge change can't come fast enough for many Americans. In recent weeks, I visited Allentown, Pennsylvania, Elyria, Ohio, Tampa, Florida, and Nashua, New Hampshire, talking with workers in factories and families and diners. And they want to know, how are they going to find a job when they only know one trade in their life? Or how are they going to afford to send their kids to college? How are they going to pay their medical bills when they get sick? How can they retire with their 401ks so banged up? Most of all, they're wondering if anyone can or will do anything about it, especially here in Washington. Now, I understand their frustration. You understand it as well. I was talking to Michelle the other day, and Michelle's always a good barometer. And you know, the front page was, what's Obama going to do to get his poll numbers up? And are the Democrats all in a tizzy and this and that? And she said, you know, listen, if you're the average family, if I'm a mom out there and I'm working and my husband's working, but we're worried about losing our jobs, our hours have been cut back, costs of our health care premiums just went up 30%, and credit card company just jacked up our interest rates 39%, and our home values have gone down by $100,000. And our 401k is all banged up, and suddenly somebody calls up and says, so how do you think President Obama's doing right now? What are they going to say? What are they going to say? Of course people are frustrated. And they have every right to be.